Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is February the 26th, 2026. Hopefully this episode finds you well, in good spirits and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Happy Thursday to ya. It's my favorite day of the week, and it treated me well. It's been a good day for me. We can go ahead and get into it. But yeah, we got up, top of the day. I felt rested. I slept pretty well. We love that. Got myself together. I got to work on time. Dare I say a few minutes early, which is always nice. We love to see it. And I mosey on over to my workstation, and it looked pretty good. Had like enough amount of work that I felt like, all right, we can definitely start with this and see where it goes. And it led to me being at the crusher all day, which I love to do. So essentially the day was very textbook, very normal. I'd say the only difference was a situation popped up towards the end of my day, like post 2. And like 2 o'clock, and someone from receiving had came over, and they're on second shift. And normally when this used to happen, pre me changing departments, I would kind of get a little frustrated, put off by this, because this is a thing that's happening that like no real supervisor is approving. It's just like, hey, they don't have any work today, so one or two of them just kind of comes over and starts working at my state. It just felt, it was one of those things where I always kind of deemed it as like a weird thing. So I would just kind of throw my hands up and then just go hang out in maintenance, right? Well, now that's not a thing I can do anymore. So I was faced with a bit of a query, a bit of a situation. And I said, okay, I can stay and work, with this person and, just be adaptive, whatever. Or I can just concede the area and just go upstairs and do putbacks. I'm sure they have something for me to do, yada, yada, yada. Now, I don't like that option. That the latter was not going to work for me if I could help it. So I said, you know what? Time to be a homie. Time to get to know somebody. Let's be nice today. Which felt good because I know I had a day like Tuesday. I was dark man. I mentioned that. I was just like, ooh, bad vibes. And it's, to some extent, I kind of wanted to like be different from that. So I took this opportunity to get to know the person who came over. And I asked them, I'm like, hey, what would you rather do? Would you like to throw cardboard? Would you like to push the button? And they're like, oh, I'll do whatever. It doesn't matter. And I said, okay, great, awesome. And essentially the setup winds up happening. Okay, they'll throw the cardboard, I push the button. But this person, was very talkative in a good way. I actually appreciated it. I got to know them. They got to know me. We just kind of talked about work, talked about the job, talked about life. I even had a little economy talk. I mean, hey, it was very grown up, very adult. But no, overall, it was a really good day. It was a really good situation. And just there alone, I actually appreciated that exchange, that interaction. And, I'm always, hoping that I do more of that. I think there's definitely sometimes I can be, call it shy, call it too reserved, call it reclusive. Maybe reclusive is the right word. But it's nice when I say, no, you can branch out. You can get to know the people you work with every day, It was a funny thing too, because at one point, the person asked me, how long have you been working here? And I go, oh, I've been working here like 11 years. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I've been here for a very, very long time. And we both had a thing in common where we both said, oh, yeah, I don't like change. Like, you know what I mean? And that's something that I always find nice, because some people are complete opposite. And that's cool too. But, I don't know. It's nice to find kindred spirits in a way, right? Anyway, so that was work. Work was good. It was solid. Oh, I'm also missing another interaction. I also got a nice little cool gift from one of my coworker friends. They how do I say this in a way that dodges any and all legalities? I'm always trying to do that. Me and my legal team here at the newsstand. No, let's just say I got a magical pen. My friend had a surplus. And they had asked me the other day, they're like, hey, would you like me to give you, like, I just have an extra cartridge, I know you're about that life, Isaiah. If you're interested. And I said, yes, yeah, thank you, please, yeah. And so they gave that to me today, and that was a nice little homie thing there, a little homie to homie moment. So yeah, needless to say, I was writing a high, and I decided that it was like, okay, we're gonna take this energy, and we're not even gonna, no caffeine, no extra monster. We're just gonna go to the gym. Let's just have a good pump. Let's see how that goes. Needless to say, it was a busy day, and also adding that I'm still not 100%. I still have a bit of that injury I was kind of talking about from the other episode. I'm trying not to go too hard. I don't think I'm going to be able to do a heavy lift the way I want either tomorrow or probably this weekend. But that being said, I was able to be pretty productive at the gym. I just had to reduce my weight training time. So I was lucky enough to get on the Smith machine. I literally was walking past it, ready to just, give up. And sure enough, I saw one. I'm like, "Ooh, lucky me." I couldn't help myself. So, I go ahead and I get in, I do my whole routine there. But at that point, I was already kind of feeling that, and I look over and I see that the free weights are pretty much all taken. So I'm like, yeah, let's just go ahead and do some core work, and then post the core work. I came downstairs, I hit the leg press, and that was it. That was pretty much all the filler work I was down to do. Because there was a lot of people, and once again, I just didn't really feel like pushing myself further when I know I'm not 100% technically. So moved on to cardio, got our whole hour of cardio in, so that felt pretty good. I think in total, I really only skipped out on 30 minutes of my workout, so we're talking an hour and a half there. I'm still okay with that. But yeah, overall, it was a good workout. We come home, I, do my stretch, have a little snack, and do my research. Also, I gotta say too, a little bit of confessions on the snack corner. I've been way too decadent. I've been way too indulgent. I'm paying for it in little ways. I know. But I've been on this Chex Mix kick. I don't know why. This started like a week or two ago, where I was just like kind of fiending for like Chex Mix. And I got a bag, like an OG traditional family size. And I was like, all right, we're going to smash through this and then we're done. We're good. That was a lie, because somehow, some way, I now have like 3 bags of different Chex Mix. I have the OG. I have the bold, which is no longer the bold and spicy. That's an L. And then I had the cheesy that I got from work, all because I was like running out of the main one. And then I rounded back around and got another bag of the traditional at another gas station. So I was like, what am I doing? Who am I? This is fatty behavior. This is big back behavior. I can't help myself. But needless to say, I did consolidate the cheesy ones into the bold bag. Also, I gotta say, I'm not the biggest fan of bold anymore, because now it's not spicy. It's just too herby. It's just, but I don't know. Maybe, hopefully I just don't even finish it. Hopefully I just throw that away. Get that devil away from me, Ricky Bobby. But the OG still fucks. I am a trad Chex Mix man. That's for sure. But yeah, maybe I gotta, stop buying Chex Mix, because it's a problem. Anyway, enough about snacks, enough about that. Let's get into the news, but we gotta do our startup. You already know. So let's go ahead and do that with a wave of my magical pen. Ooh. And I'm going to tiptoe to the tulips. Ooh. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I really want to be the Doug Benson of news. And I know he probably had a thing where he did this, but I want to do it more so than he has. And I think I have at this point. I think I've crossed that threshold. I'm just not as cool or funny. And I don't get as Anyway, let's go ahead and get into some heavy shit. We got to talk Hillary Clinton. We got to talk Epstein. From Yahoo News, Hillary Clinton testifies that she has no idea about Epstein's crimes. What we know about the deposition plus how we got here. So we're not reading all this, but a good chunk of it. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton insisted during a deposition on Thursday that she had no idea about the criminal activities of Jeffrey Epstein. Clinton met with the Republican-led House Oversight Committee near her home in Chappaquiddick, New York, on Thursday. The hearing concluded in the early evening after over 6 hours of testimony and an hour-long disruption that occurred when an image taken by GOP Representative Lauren Boebert from inside the closed-door proceedings was posted online. Now, this right here was wild enough alone because technically there's literally a rule where you cannot, in the midst of these proceedings, in this deposition, like, as a witness, you cannot take pictures. You can't share that shit. Like, this shit is supposed to run its course. There's supposed to be a showing of the transcripts like days after the fact, whatever. But you can't take these images and post them. But I think for Boebert, her little ingenious plan here, and or I think she was just maybe doing this for a little bit of like clout networking, whatever. But she gives them to, I don't know, conservative, far right talking head Benny Johnson or whatever the fuck, and he posts the image. I don't know what the fuck he said. I don't fucking care. I don't follow that guy. But essentially that's what causes disruption, and I think that's kind of wild because if this was a shoe on the other foot in the other aisle, this would be a thing that Republicans would be making so much hay, and they'd be like, you know what, we need to censor this person, da 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 da. But I highly doubt anything's gonna happen to Lauren Boebert yet again. She just gets to skate away for fucking free, dude. She just gets to keep vaping and watching Beetlejuice, dude. If you know, you fucking know. But let's continue. Former President Bill Clinton is slated to speak with the committee on Friday. The depositions come after months of back and forth between the Clintons and GOP leaders of the committee, who ultimately forced the couple to agree to appear by threatening to hold them in contempt of Congress. So we've talked about that before. That is the part of the how we got here, so I don't really feel like belaboring that point. Though her testimony was delivered behind closed doors, Hillary Clinton released her opening statement to the public on Thursday morning. In the statement, she says she doesn't remember ever meeting Epstein and attacked Republicans for spending their time on fishing expeditions rather than conducting a serious investigation. I'll agree with them. I'll agree with Hillary Clinton on this last part. This was just theater. This was just a fucking thing that they were trying to do to get her, looped into something legally. But this is what these shits always are. It doesn't matter whether we're trying to go for, the Clintons or Les Wexner or whatever the fuck. Like, they are just doing a show to try to say, hey, we're doing something. We're getting to the bottom of it. We're doing what the FBI won't do. Sort of. But it is crazy that the FBI isn't, the ones handling these kind of negotiations years back. Like, they just, we can't do anything else. It's the end of the road legally. You have compelled me to testify, fully aware that I have no knowledge that would assist your investigation, in order to distract attention from President Trump's actions and to cover them up despite legitimate calls for answers, she wrote. Clinton provided more detail about her testimony after the hearing. I don't know how many times I had to say, I don't know Jeffrey Epstein, she told reporters. I never went to his island. I never went to his homes. I never went to his offices. So it's on the record numerous times. She added that the discussion also strayed into other topics beyond Epstein. It then got, at the end, quite unusual because I started being asked about UFOs and a series of questions about Pizzagate, she said, referring to the debunked conspiracy theory about a Democrat-led child sex ring that purportedly operated in the basement of a Washington, D.C. pizza shop. So that was something that she had gotten dragged into in terms of the conspiracy allegations, and they just became real to every QAnon head, online. And you hear that kind of thing, and it's like, oh, well, that these people are yet again hitting these kind of notes so that they can show to their crazy riled base. And it's like, hey, we're listening, we hear you, and we're doing the best we can. Like that is why you ask those kind of fucking dumbass questions. Let's see here, but we're not to my main part here, but we'll keep reading. Not the same. Neither Clinton has been accused of being part of any of Epstein's crimes. No one's accusing at this moment the Clintons of any wrongdoing, but we have a lot of questions. Republican Representative James Comer, chair of the Oversight Committee, told reporters Thursday morning. The point of this hearing, he said, was to expand the committee's knowledge of the sex trafficking operation run by Epstein and his longtime confidant Ghislaine Maxwell. Which is important because we're getting to this next part here. There's no public evidence directly linking Hillary Clinton to Epstein or Maxwell, which I kind of have scruples with. Because once again, I've referenced this a lot in terms of Ghislaine Maxwell at the wedding. According to not so much testimony or whatever, but that was a +1. She says that actually a reporter asked her when she is talking post deposition, and she goes, that was a +1 to her daughter's wedding, one of her daughter's weddings. She didn't talk to her, she didn't meet her or whatever. That's all it was. But to me, I'm like, I'm just not buying it. It's just like how Bill Clinton is going to come up there and say tomorrow, yeah, once I learned in 2008 that he was a sex offender, I stopped fucking with him. Okay, maybe you did that on paper. Maybe you were even the one who actually did that. Like, unlike, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, who kept fucking with him after the fact and just said you didn't. Like, there's just no way in hell that you're going to say you didn't know him. You weren't that close with him. Like, motherfucker, he knew you. He was hanging out in the White House to see you, man. Like, what are we talking about here? It's hard for me to square that. Plus, we already have pictures of him and a woman and Ghislaine Maxwell in a pool. Like, you're going to say you don't know these people? You have no recollection, no connection with these people at all? Like, let's just talk about Donald Trump. No, dude, no one's really buying that either. Okay. At the end of the day here, I think everyone wants to see these motherfuckers at least talk to. And I guess that at the end of the day, like I said, I call this theater, but I do think that this does something for people. I think that seeing these people walk through their paces to some extent is something. We're going to kind of get into the bit of the weeds here because I didn't cover this, but I know, there was some kind of conference that Bill Gates was at where he just winds up actually, like, the conversation, the questions come up, and he winds up admitting, he's like, yeah, I had, like, I think he mentions, like, 2 moments where he had an affair via the whole Epstein stuff. And I'm like, wow, like, we really are living in a time where these guys are actually, like, in public having to answer these questions and actually have to, answer them as quote unquote earnestly as they can. I don't know. So, there's that's something. I mentioned, what was it, Larry Summer the other day, how he was getting, like, kicked off of boards or leaving boards, that he was a part of. He's also, I guess now officially, as of yesterday or today, no longer teaching at Harvard. You would think that would have happened sooner, but hey, whatever. Better late than never. It's kind of like the Mandelson thing, right? The Peter Mandelson thing. So yeah, man, it's some thick shit. I imagine we will be coming back to this story in the future, just for Hillary Clinton, but more importantly for old Billiam, because he's, like I said, he's going to be in a deposition tomorrow, and that probably won't come to us in terms of, like, more details and everything. That probably won't come out to us maybe till, like, end of the weekend or maybe Monday. I don't fucking know. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, interesting times in that regard. Things are at least coming to roost in some way, shape, or form. Now, do I think any legal ramifications or anything like that are going to happen? No, sadly no. But at least you can know who these motherfuckers are, what they've been on about, what they've been up to, how close they were to Jeffrey, and they actually have to talk about that. They actually have to field those questions like they fucking should. That's better than fucking nothing, man. I don't know. But anyway, let's move on. From one former president to our current, from The Independent. Trump listens to new pal Mamdani and has Columbia student freed after ICE took her from campus. A Columbia University student arrested by immigration officers inside her campus apartment was released from custody hours after New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani urged President Donald Trump to let her go during his visit to the White House. Neuroscience student Ellie Agayeva was released from federal detention in New York City Thursday afternoon. I am safe and okay, she wrote to her followers on Instagram. I am so sorry, but I am in complete shock over what happened, and my phone is blowing up with calls from reporters. I need a little bit of time to process everything. I will be back soon. Please don't worry. I love you all. Department of Homeland Security officers misrepresented themselves to enter a residential building to arrest Agayeva early Thursday morning, according to university officers. Now, this is being disputed by DHS. They're saying, no, we didn't. Also, I've heard, like, multiple interpretations of this, that it was just a ruse, but what was the ruse? I've heard the main thorough line that they misrepresented themselves as NYPD, like that kind of law enforcement. And it's like, no, motherfucker, you're not the cops. You're fucking ICE, and you're not supposed to be on campus this way. You don't have a warrant for that kind of fucking shit, and you're just trying to get through. And they're like, No, we're cops. We're cool. Or it was some kind of thing. Either way, they did, quote unquote, misrepresent themselves to get on campus so that they could body snatch someone, so that they could just take someone. I believe that their reasoning was at one point she wasn't going to classes, they said, and that violated her visa status or something to that effect, and that is what was mobilizing this situation. Like, you got this motherfucker literally studying in school right now. Like, what are we talking about? That is the state of affairs here. But I think because this person had a bit of a social profile, because it's lining up, I don't know if Zohran Mamdani came to the White House to talk specifically about this only. I also know, too, that other students were mentioned as well. But man has a way with that. Man has a way with Trump. He knows how to work Donald or something. I don't know. Because whenever he comes in, it is of the vibe of, like, you're at a nursing home, right? And, like, Mamdani's the staff. And, like, Trump is the demented, brain-rotted old guy. And he's really hard to work with. And you're just trying to do your job. But for some reason, Zohran, he has a way. He just comes through, and it's like the sun just comes out. And, like, everything's a little bit okay. He's a little bit easier to work with. And you know what? He's going to eat his applesauce today. All right. And everything's going to be okay. All right. And that's I lived that life for at least a season. That was not even a season, like 2 or 3 weeks. But that was something. Needless to say, things worked out here. And Trump was like, okay, no, fine. We will get her out immediately. Like, so that's crazy that this turnaround happened so fast. We've obviously covered so many situations where that wasn't the case. And I don't know about the fate of the other students or anything like that. But, definitely, like, when I came to the story, Zohran Mamdani, Donald Trump really technically had nothing to do with it. I just wanted to cover Agayeva's story and say, okay, this is something that we're going to, be keeping track of. She's, in detention. I imagine that's going to maybe lead to a trial. We don't know, or some kind of thing. Or they were just going to maybe try to, just dead of night deport her out of here to some random country. You never fucking know this administration with ICE. So, I was like, okay, let's just see what it is when I get to recording. By the time I get there, I'm literally seeing pictures of Mamdani and Trump smiling together with fucking newspapers. I'm like, what a day, man. What a fucking turnaround here. So, but in all, this is good news. You got to count your silver linings where you see them. But yeah, I mean, the rest are a bit of details here. But by all means, go to The Independent if you'd like to get fully appraised of the story. And I'm sure we will come back to it in some kind of capacity. Also, there's another thing I pulled from here. WCNC, I believe this is an NBC subsidiary. But Columbia student detained by ICE is abruptly released after Mamdani meets with Trump. So yeah, man, that's a bit of that Mamdani magic, man. I don't know. There's a reason I referenced that motherfucker in the previous episode. He does have something. There's something here with this guy, little social democrat or whatever. I don't know, But I didn't even cover either the snow shit from this week with the blizzard. That was a whole thing. But then that led to a whole little sub controversy where people were throwing snowballs at cops, and the cops were like, oh my God, the snowballs are hurting us. They're hurting us so much. You guys gotta do something. Could like a politician at least acknowledge that this is happening? I got cuts on my face and shit, man. They throwing them so hard. So that happened, and like Mamdani had to feel that, and that was kind of funny. But I didn't really feel like yapping about it, except for like right here, right now. But those poor little cops will never recover, dude. Jesus Christ, New York's finest. Anyway, we have another story that I wanted to cover. We're still talking law enforcement. We're still talking immigration. That's still a fucking thing. But yeah, let me take a quick water break. Okie dokie. From People. Blind dad of 2 is found dead after being released by Border Patrol and left to find his way home 5 miles away. Now, this one, I want to read all of it so I can try to get it, as right as I can. This was a really sad and frustrating story. A blind dad of 2 has died after he was taken into custody by Border Patrol officers and allegedly left miles away from his home, according to reports. The Buffalo Police Department announced earlier this week that it was seeking the public's help in searching for Nurul Amin Shah Alam, a refugee from Burma, who was reported missing on Sunday, February 22nd, by his attorney, according to WIVB. In the days before his death, Shah Alam had been released to Border Patrol custody after serving months in jail following a 2025 arrest on assault charges. After picking him up, the agents are accused of dropping off Shah Alam, who was vision impaired and spoke limited English, at a Tim Hortons restaurant in Buffalo on Thursday, February 19th, the investigative post reported. According to court records viewed by People, Shah Alam was arrested on multiple charges of assault and criminal mischief following an incident in which he was allegedly armed that resulted in minor injuries on February 15th of 2025. According to KBW, after he was arrested, an immigration hold detainer was issued by the U.S. Border Patrol. Now, I want to stop right here because this is the kind of thing that I was mentioning when it came to the Minneapolis shit. And that was part, like, what I described right there is what Tom Homan wanted to kind of reestablish. And it's more or less saying he kind of got is that, hey, I want to have more access to criminals that we are going to deem as illegal migrants. And because of that tag, we are going to just, like, take them. We're just going to take them and you give them directly to us. And then we're going to ship them on out. And we're talking about a minor assault here, in which they go on to explain, which I would rather let the article do it better, but it's essentially like very minor. And because of that, and because it's like, well, you know, you're not here, quote unquote, legally, we are just going to discard you from the country. Just like jettison you. We have a little whole program for that. And you're seeing this kind of happen, you know, at least part of this happen, you know, in action here. So I wanted to kind of just, you know, stop the record and at least say, hey, like, this is what I was describing from that. Shah Alam was later indicted in June of 2025 by a grand jury on felony assault and criminal mischief charges, per the outlet. He pled guilty to reduced charges of criminal possession of a weapon and criminal trespass, and was scheduled for a sentencing hearing on March 24th. Shah Alam's attorney previously maintained that his criminal case stemmed from him becoming lost while on a walk in 2025 and ended up on a stranger's porch while using a curtain rod as a walking stick, the investigative post reported. Shah Alam did not speak English and didn't respond to commands from officers who responded to the scene and told him to drop his rod. Following the plea, Shah Alam's bail was continued and he was released from custody on February 19th, according to a statement shared with People by the Erie County Sheriff's Office, or the ECSO. Nurul Amin Shah Alam was booked into the Erie County Holding Center on February 16th of 2025 after being arrested by Buffalo Police Department. The Erie County Sheriff's Department said in a statement, "Upon his admission, we received an immigration detainer that was lodged by U.S. Border Patrol. Mr. Shah Alam was released from our custody on February 19th after bond was posted." According to the ECSO, Border Patrol officers arrived at the holding center prior to the finalization of Mr. Shah Alam's release from the Erie County Sheriff's Office custody. In a statement, a spokesperson for U.S. Customs and Border Protection confirmed to People that Shah Alam entered the United States as a refugee on December 24th, 2024, and was not amenable to removal. So essentially, he was not here legally. He had refugee status, which he was allowed to have. That is a legal thing in America. Donald Trump doesn't like that, but that's just how this is. And they go, oh, well, then I guess we can't do what we came here to fucking do. On Tuesday, February 24th, the Buffalo Police Department announced that it was no longer searching for Shah Alam, who was found after police were called to respond to a report of a dead body on Perry Street. And Shah Alam was later identified by the Erie County Medical Examiner as the victim, according to WKBW. In the meantime, in the days after Shah Alam was reported missing by his attorney, a Buffalo Police Department officer mistakenly closed the missing persons case associated with his disappearance because they believed Shah Alam was in ICE custody. WIVB reported. AKA, we washed our hands of this guy. He's no longer our problem. Everything's fine. Case closed. So yeah, they mistakenly did it because they did not care. And no part in this was Shah Alam ever treated like a fucking human being. He was just shuffled around. And then once they realized they couldn't do what they wanted to do with him, they go, oh, well, which we're going to get to. I mean, I guess we already have gotten to. Essentially, they, say, okay, well, we're going to take you to a Tim Hortons. And, essentially they said, hey, where do you want to go? We can take you to a spot. And he goes, oh, I would like some coffee. So they go, okay, we'll take you to Tim Hortons. But I believe that was his last known address that they kind of had found him from, if I'm not mistaken. But then they just leave him there. And it's like, yeah, he winds up wandering around in the cold and he dies. Now, a medical examiner says, I guess we can just get to that part. Buffalo PD also noted that the Erie County Medical Examiner's Office performed an autopsy on Shah Alam and determined that his cause of death was health-related and that exposure and homicide have been ruled out as potential causes. So no one killed him and it wasn't the cold is really what they're trying to say there. But it's like, okay, so he just goes horizontal, just not to mention, this was something that was preventable. If there was if there was a better protocol, better, practices at hand from law enforcement here on all parts of it, Shah Alam would be here. He would still be here. But they're like, nah, we don't, you're not our problem anymore, is essentially what was happening here at each and every point. And they just left him. A man who is I feel like they're saying partially blind here, but when you get down to it, this man was pretty much so. I mean, he is walking around with a makeshift curtain as a cane, as a walking stick. Come on now, man. And you're just like, yeah, man, good luck. See you later. So to me, this, if we're not going to say this is criminal, this is some kind of neglect that is morbid levels. Just to pray, I don't know, man. This is a human being and you're treating him like once again, he was just, cargo to throw around or something like that. So yeah, this was something that was really sad. I'm hoping that the investigation leads to some kind of details, some kind of accountability. At least point a finger at one or two of these departments involved here, whether it be Border Patrol or whether it be law enforcement, whatever. This police department, Buffalo. God damn, man. So yeah, this story was definitely a drag, definitely a bummer. But when I saw it last night, I was like, yep, we gonna cover that today. So. I know I kind of got sloppy there at the end, but yeah, that's the story. Let's move on, though. We're going to take our last break, and then we got to do some recalls. A little bit of a recall roundup. Excuse me. Close it out with that. Whoo-wee. Actually, no. We're going to do both barrels. Akimbo. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, triple dipper, baby. Ooh wee. Okay. Ow, it hurts when I cough. It hurts that area I was describing. Oh yeah. All right. From Eating Well. Nationwide recalls on frozen food. Run that back. Nationwide recalls on frozen food, supplements, and more to be aware of right now. Okay, we're just going to run them down. The first one is chicken fried rice. There's a recall on over 3.3 million pounds of frozen chicken fried rice products, according to a recent announcement by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Agriculture's Food Safety and Inspection Service, or FSIS. The two products affected are Ajinomoto Yakitori chicken with Japanese-style fried rice and Trader Joe's chicken fried rice, sold in Canada and in the U.S. respectively. They each contain establishment number P-18356 on their packaging. They got a whole Best Buy dates from September 8th through November 7th, 2026. Bit of yada 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 there. There is glass fragments potentially in the packaging. So buyer beware there. Probably just toss those out. Get your refund. You know the fucking vibes. Continuing on to the frozen meatballs. Aldi and the FSIS announced a recall on 32-ounce packages of frozen meatballs sold at the grocery store nationwide. Approximately 9,462 pounds of the product have been affected. The 64-count packages of fully cooked frozen Bremer family size Italian-style meatballs have a Best By date of 10/30/26 with timestamps between yada yada and blah blah blah. The recall here, metal fragments in the meatballs. There's metal in the meatballs. There's currently no reported illnesses or injuries due to this contamination. Can you imagine getting an injury from your food? That would suck. Technically, I have. It's a whole story, but I technically, tooth issue that happened. Save it for off the pod or whatever. But anyway, let's see. Moving on to supplements. Moringa powder supplements. Bought soft. I don't like how they started this off. This is too cheeky. Bought supplements online lately. Check your cabinets because a brand of Moringa powder capsules, I'm gonna say capsules, don't come for me, are being recalled due to their connection to a salmonella outbreak. Can you imagine that? You bought some supplements and shit, and the next thing you know, you got salmonella? What a plot twist. Rosabella Moringa powder capsules with impacted expiration dates through November of 2027. That's a long time. These supplements were sold on e-commerce sites including eBay, TikTok Shop, Amazon, and Shein to consumers internationally. As of the latest U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA report, there have been 7 illnesses, including 3 hospitalizations in connection to this recall. Now, can I take a stop right here? Because mentioning TikTok in a actual e-commerce way, jogged my memory to a meeting I had yesterday at work. And, God bless my lead's heart. They were making a good point using a strong example that is timely and useful. But it took me out of my body because I am 35 years old and this is just the world we live in. They were explaining how we needed to make sure hey, we gotta get the product right. And I'm sure you're thinking well, isn't your department have nothing to do with picking, processing? You guys are restockers and you work the cardboard. Yeah, true. But part of what we do is the restock, and then also I've mentioned put backs and stuff like that. So we got to put the clothes back where they belong if there's ever any errors or anything like that, returns. So we need to make sure the product goes in the right bins. That makes sense, right? You're keeping up with me here. So essentially, my lead was saying, hey, we got to make sure that we get the product right, because if you get the product wrong, it's going to go in the box wrong. It's going to, when it gets shipped to the person, and people are going to be upset. Could you imagine, if you got your TikTok order and it came in wrong, or if you got your Amazon order and it came in wrong, and I was just and it threw me off because I literally in my head, I was just thinking, you could have just said Amazon. You don't have to mention TikTok. That's so unnecessary. But then I stopped myself in my brain and I said, Isaiah, I know you don't go on that app. You don't go on that site very often. You just post your little episode and get the fuck on. But there's tons of selling going on there. That is the reason TikTok is so popular, and it's something that is always trying to grow, because they essentially want to be Amazon. That is their end game. That is their goal. And essentially everyone else wants to be TikTok. That is how the food chain is working right now. So that was just a really surreal moment to hear that played out in my real work life. I don't know. It took me out. But anyway, back to the recalls. They mentioned salmon. We're going to skip that one because it's the BJ Wholesale Club. It's still a thing. Listeria monococcogens. I think I got that right there. That's still a thing. Buyer beware. Remember the sour salmon. I don't know. I couldn't make that rhyme. Fuck. All right, moving on to turmeric supplements. This is our last one. A mold contamination has caused a popular brand of turmeric supplements to be recalled. Per the FDA, the recall impacts 30 states. And you can best fucking believe that Ohio is one of those states. We're not going to go through all the states, but they were sold at CVS locations. They got some batch numbers. We will say the name. About 42,740 bottles of Kunal extra strength turmeric, 1,000 milligram, are affected. They're the 60 count and 120 count bottles. But yeah, they have the lot codes and all that, yada yada yada, and the Best Buy dates. It's like fucking October of 2028, so they last for forever. But you know, you don't want to get sick off of them, so you know, no mold. That can't be good for you. Man, I took this turmeric supplements and now I'm the man thing. I belong in a swamp now. The plants know my name. No, you'll probably die. It probably won't be cool. So don't do that. Buyer beware. You know, obviously not a food expert or anything, but you know, you just get your refund, or if you can't, worst case, just toss that shit. Just Kobe that shit. It ain't worth it. All right, that's it. That's all I have for today. That's the episode. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon. Patreon.com/IsaiahNews. Become a newsie today. Roll call is coming up. I shout you out, so get on there. You know, before the end of the month. You know, we start at March. March. Wow, it's just around the river bend. Anyway, freeways hit me up. IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube. Follow on TikTok. Follow on Spotify. Follow on Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen. Let's see. Leave a like. Leave a cool comment. Sharing is caring. I think I'm not supposed to tell you to give me 5 stars. I think that's technically illegal in the podcasting world, and that if I keep doing it, they'll drone strike me. Allegedly, I don't know, but give me all the stars, okay? Give me as many stars as possible. Highly rate me, okay? I need that, okay? You know, just do me that solid. It would mean a lot. But if you don't, it's okay. You know, I really just appreciate you tuning in. If you're a long-time listener, 0-time caller, I'm here for you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that's it. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.